Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of the viewers from around the world. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of correlation and regression, we will be considering the price actions, which is uh, which is going to shape up the upcoming moves also. So we will be looking at the developments which have taken place during the European trading session in particular to see if we can figure out the underlying momentum, and then of course if we can do that, then the next step, the logical step, is to look for the optimum entry point so that we are able to optimize our trades, minimize our risk, and maximize our profit. So let us now head to the JForex for the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the USD JPY chart, and the candle period has been defined at 5 minutes each. To get the range of last couple of hours, I have added this Donchian channel 24, which represents the range of last 2 hours. Along with that, we have this Donchian channel 48, which gives us the range for last 4 hours. And also to consider the immediate momentum, we are looking at the average price of last 1 and 2 hours respectively, using this SMA formation of 12 and 24 in place. Now, if we have to consider the moves so far in the session, then we will have to see how things have shaped up so far. Let's consider the immediate price action and the recent swing highs and swing lows. So in today's session, earlier in the day, just prior to the start of European trading session, we saw the USD JPY making a high at 134.40. From those levels, it eventually went on to decline almost 100 pips. Now it is finding some support on the lower side, but it will be interesting to see if this pullback from the lower levels is going to be sustainable or if it is going to be transient and short-lived. So that is our job. That is the main focus here. How the dollar is likely to behave here onwards, and of course, if we expect the dollar to strengthen moving forward, then in that scenario, the next logical question to ask is, of course, if the JPY is the best bet for the bearish trade, or if we have better opportunities in other major currencies trading against the dollar. So first we have to figure out the momentum, and then we have to figure out the instrument to exploit that momentum. Now, if we consider the USD JPY's move so far in the session, it indeed seems to be finding support closer to these 133.5 levels, and from here on, it went on to sharply rise 50 pips, and it now has given up some of those gains and holding closer to the 133.60 level. And if we look at the prior range, it is still bearish if we simply consider the formation of recent lows and recent highs. Then we have the formation of lower lows and lower highs for last couple of sessions. Of course, if we enlarge time frame, then we get the formation of higher highs and higher lows. So if we consider the candlestick time frame of 1 hourly each, then we have the formation of higher highs and higher lows. But if we shorten the candle period to say 5 minutes, then we have the formation of lower lows and lower high. So that is the dichotomy of the situation. And if we consider the price moves in last couple of hours, it seems to be acting in line with this prior formation of higher highs and higher lows. So if we see for next couple of hours the USD JPY holding closer to 133.5 range, then I think the trade can indeed be initiated. Looking at the immediate price formation prior to the entry, if we see the consolidation holding well and not much of an bearish momentum. Right now, I think we will have to allow it more time, but moving forward, the possibility is there simply by going with the formation of higher highs and higher lows. So unless there is any significant drop below 133, I think till that level is reached, we can keep looking for some opportunities to go for a trade in which we can expect the JPY to remain on the weaker footing. If we have to take the trade immediately, then right now the momentum is slightly bearish. As I said, on the lower time frame, we have the formation of lower lows and lower highs. So in that scenario, the immediate next move is likely to be on the lower side. So we will have to allow the USD JPY some room to move here. And as I said, on the lower side, we do have 133 as a price range which we can expect to provide the support moving forward. So keeping that in mind, let's see how we can exploit the situation. And now we turn our gaze on figuring out the relative momentum. If we expect the dollar to strengthen in the latter part of today's session, in the latter hours, and then of course we have to figure out if the JPY is the currency which we can rely on, if we have better choices in other major currencies. So let's start comparing all these major currency crosses one by one. Let's see what's the story for Euro USD. The Euro USD is too happy to be trading in the range. Last, I think now many days, or even you can say a couple of weeks, where it has been holding this range. And many a times I have said that we can simply buy it on the lower side, anywhere closer to 1.06 range, and on the higher side, we can keep the immediate swing high in mind. And as and when we see it stabilizing on the higher side, we can indeed go for the short sale trades. So that story is holding so far so well. And of course, I'm not going to be sure how long that story is going to hold, but as things stand, it is something which we can rely on. So here in today's session, the things are not really shaping up any different way. We still have the Euro USD struggling on the higher side around the price range of 1.066, 1.065. And if we have to consider the immediate price momentum, it seems to be recovering after declining sharply around 20 pips. So in today's session, the range has been fairly narrow, 30-35 pips. There is not much of an move. The strong momentum is squarely lacking in the Euro USD. So I think it is better if we go with a instrument which has a larger momentum like USD JPY, which is moving in a lot higher in terms of the magnitude. The Euro USD is too range bound, and it is likely to bore you to death. Or if not death, it is of course going to bore you and make you feel like giving up and simply sitting on the sidelines. So rather than trading with the Euro USD, we can prefer to keep the trading more focused on the USD JPY as it has more range. Now, if we have to consider the immediate momentum here, it is slightly on the bullish side. As I was speaking, in case of the USD JPY, that we have some room for the JPY to strengthen further, and USD JPY can move towards the 133 level. That same story is also holding for the euro. Euro right now is slightly on the stronger footing. It is holding well, and unless and until there is any sort of sharp move after getting back closer to this immediate swing high, we will have to sit cautious and allow it some more time for consolidation. Right now, it is picking up the pace from the lower side of the spectrum. So, if we have to simply even consider trading within the range, we have to see that it is starting from the lower side, and we will have to get the trade on the second half when we see now is the time where it is likely to start declining. So that moment is yet to come. So we will have to allow it more time, and it is not really a good idea to go for a long trade at the moment, as we don't really have that kind of room unless there is a significant break on the higher side. That is always a possibility that can happen, but unless that happens, we can't really say that it is a wise decision to go for a long trade at the current levels. Rather than that, I would simply prefer to adopt a wait and watch approach in the Euro USD. Let's consider the GBP, and GBP seems to be on the much stronger side compared to the euro. And even if we look at the GBP's range, it is 100 pips from low to this immediate high. So the GBP has a much stronger momentum in today's session. So if any of you have to keep watch on the trade with the expectation of the further weakness in the dollar, I think GBP is a currency which you can surely count on, at least in today's session. Let's consider its larger time frame picture. So it has found support closer to 1.20 range, and in today's session also it started the journey around the same levels. Couple of days back it made this low just slightly below 1.20, and in today's session it went close to that, and then this rebound has happened, and it is back to these yesterday's highs around 1.21. Now I think looking at this formation where it is having this swing low to be higher compared to the prior swing low, we can expect this immediate high to be higher than this prior swing high. So here also the same thing holds. We have further room for the GBP to run higher. So it is better to avoid the short sell trade immediately. But given the fact that there has been significant move already in the GBP, it is of course a risky bet to go for a long trade. Then in that scenario, if you feel like getting involved for the long trade, then of course you will have to keep in mind that it has now already reached the levels where it is likely to find some resistance. So you will have to keep your target price accordingly, with the expectation that in coming hours it might not really go too far. Of course, the markets are always uncertain. You can't be 100% right about anything, but still, as per the projections, current price formation, and the momentum, the possibility is quite less, but not negligible. The possibility is there, but only on a limited side. But of course, the GBP is on the lot stronger footing compared to the euro, so that is something to keep in mind. And apparently, it is also on the stronger side compared to the JPY. JPY is holding closer to 133.5 range. It is trading on the higher side compared to this prior swing low. But for GBP, the immediate high is the highest point of the day. So that is something which we can use to compare it with the JPY, and it gives us the idea that GBP is on the stronger footing, and it is actually the strongest currency of all these three currencies which we have seen so far trading against the dollar, with euro being the weakest of all these three simply by order of the magnitude. Now let's consider the AUD USD. For AUD, the growth started at around 0.672, and it has climbed more than 1 percentage point from the low point of the day, and even now it is trading quite strong, and its gains are actually larger compared to the gains which we saw in case of GBP, simply in terms of the magnitude, and the timing is not really far off. So I think if we have to decide for any single major currency to bet on for the further strength against the dollar, then we will have to take a close call, as we have strong momentum prevalent in the AUD along with the GBP. Maybe if you expect more volatility and like more volatility in immediate term, maybe GBP can be a preferred bid, but in terms of the magnitude, the AUD seems to be on the leading side, but GBP is not really far behind. So it is a matter of taste, I would say. But both these currencies are trading quite strong, and of course, a lot more stronger compared to the euro. Let's see other major Asia Pacific peer of AUD USD. The NZD is also following a similar path, similar timeline. It is, I think, to some extent, it is on the stronger side. Apparently, the gains seems to be more than 1.5 percentage point for the NZD. So that is something to speak of. And in terms of the magnitude, it seems to be leading the AUD also. So here you will have to give a preference to the NZD because the gains have been much higher compared to the AUD as well as the NZD. And if we look at the timeline, it made this low quite early in the day at 235 for AUD. Let's see, at around the same time, but then we didn't see AUD declining much in second phase. For GBP, the day's low came in much later at 535. So we have a better opportunity developing in NZD, and I think the NZD has to be considered the strongest of all the major currencies trading against the dollar in today's session. Let's consider other two major currencies also, CAD and CHF, before we can be firm in our view. The CAD is also trading on the stronger side, but apparently the range of the USD CAD moves are quite narrow. It is trading much more like Euro USD, and in that case, I think it has to be placed somewhere in the middle. It is not the strongest of the suit, nor it is the weakest. It is somewhere in the middle. It is not really moving much either. So the momentum is on the side of bearishness, slight bearishness, you can say, for the US dollar. Most of the other major currencies are trading at the stronger side with slight bullish momentum. But as I said, we have much favorable trading opportunity in the currencies like NZD, and also you can always consider the AUD and GBP. But for CAD, it is not much strong. It is more like Euro. So we better avoid it and go with the strongest of the flow. But if the reversal happens, if we feel that latter part of the day, if we see dollar finding its feet, and if after due consolidation things start to turn around, then maybe I think in that scenario we can give first preference to the currencies like Euro or the CAD, which are on the weaker side of this spectrum. And then the reversal, whenever it starts to gather momentum, is likely to affect these currencies more. So in that case, you can start betting on the strength of the dollar. But right now, that moment is yet to arise in the market. USD CHF is also trading in the bullish momentum, and if we consider the magnitude of this decline, it is not that high. It is trading much more like other major European peers. So you have to give it, you don't really have to give it much of a preference over other major currencies. The timeline of this decline is similar, but this immediate swing high, which came in just a couple of hours back, tells us another story and makes us place it somewhere behind. And in that context, I think it is a currency which better avoided for the time being till much more clarity emerges. So we have the shorting possibility emerging in the currencies like CAD, where we can expect the dollar to strengthen further, but only after due consolidation. And we have the opportunities in the currencies like NZD or the GBP, where we can expect the further moves on the bullish side. So we will have to keep this spectrum in mind, and then in keeping with the relative strength and the weakness, we can make the trading decisions as we feel that the risk is on the lower side. Our risk is rather limited, and we can profit much more compared to the risk which we have to take. So whenever the optimum opportunities arise, we can take the bait and try to get involved in the market. Now let's go to the equity segment. After the start of North American trading session, we are seeing these sharp moves of around half a percentage point, not 1.5. And if we consider the prior moves, this is a holiday curtailed week. We are not really likely to see big moves in today's session either. The liquidity is going to be much less. So we will have to trade with the caution. If we simply consider the momentum, then it is of higher highs and higher lows. So keeping that in mind, we can expect the Dow Jones to gain further in the session. Maybe it is likely to cross this immediate swing high and rise towards the level of 33,500. So that seems to be a possibility. And if we have to exploit that possibility, of course, we have to see if the Dow Jones is the strongest of these three major equity indices for the United States, or if we have better opportunity presenting itself in S&P 500 or Nasdaq. For the S&P 500, the momentum is almost similar. Timeline of the event is not really far different. It is apparently slightly on the stronger footing compared to the Dow Jones, as it climbed to this prior swing high in the first 5 minutes after the start, whereas Dow took some more time. So on that count, you can place the S&P 500 ahead of the Dow Jones. Let's see the story for Nasdaq. Nasdaq is actually the strongest of all these three equity indices, with its rise being much higher. In percentage terms also, the gains are more than 1 percentage point, whereas for the Dow, the gains are only half a percentage point. And for S&P 500, the gains are slightly less than 1 percentage point, but more than half a percentage point. So both in terms of the magnitude as well as of the timing of the move, we see the Nasdaq leading the pack. So we have the strongest bullish momentum in Nasdaq of all the three major equity indices for the United States, with the underlying momentum favorable for the bullish trade. So this might take looking at the equity space for this US session. And as there is not much of an action in the European space, we will not really go into the details of what happened during the European trading hours. So here I am signing off for the day. If you have any query or any idea to share, you can write to me in the feedback, and I will be more than happy to take the discussion forward. So thank you all for joining in. I will be back tomorrow with a fresh assessment of the new price dynamic prevalent at that point in time. So do come back. We will have a fantastic session, hopefully so, and some money to be made. So have a fabulous time ahead. See you next time around. Goodbye.